It's a bright but chilly morning in northeastern Spain. Welcome back to the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. I'm Greg Haynes and we are all set for the penultimate race of the season in the 2017 Formula Renault Eurocup. Well, on Saturday we had our first of 3 races this weekend, and here's the circuit they're going to be contesting again on here this morning. 25 minutes and 1 lap. What a great layout it is. 4.6 kilometres, 2.8 miles clockwise in configuration, and the lap, as ever, split up into 3 sectors. But that second sector in particular, which takes them round from turns 4 to 10, very, very difficult to pass. And with the temperatures as well and the tyres going off after about the second or third lap, it just makes it ever trickier to overhaul the man alongside you here in Barcelona. And look at these temperatures as well. Yesterday it was 17 air, 21 track, but this first race of Sunday much earlier, so it's 14 air and 13 track. How significant might that be as we move into this first race of 2 here today? Well, it might be very significant indeed, championship-wise, because we're on the verge of this one being sewn up now. And despite these slightly chilly temperatures, the crowd knows that it really will warm up right into the mid-20s, as it did yesterday, later on in the afternoon. As I look out of the commentary box window, and you can see now at the top of the screen as well, clear blue skies over the Pyrenees there in the background, and it really will be very pleasant as we move into the afternoon. So everybody just putting up with the chilliness at the moment. And here's Robert Schwartzman. He's got nothing to complain about at all. He's a member of the SMP Racing Driver Academy for Russian drivers, and now the Ferrari Driver Academy as well. He absolutely dominated from pole yesterday. And here is Sacha Finestra as this impressive 18-year-old Frenchman with Joseph Kaufmann Racing. He is on the verge of winning the title for 2017. Others, of course, are out there to stop him in the race. The likes of Max Deforny here, number 9, Belgian driver, number 9, and he's 19 years old with the Belgian flag flying proudly there. Deforny, he's a great overtaker, and he was well up there yesterday. Gabrielle Aubry, 4th on the grid again, finished on the podium in race 1 of the weekend yesterday, and incidentally today's 2 races are the 22nd and 23rd of the season, the last 2 of the season, this longer Formula Renault Eurocup season of 2017. And here's Richard Verschoor, who was for the first time the leading rookie driver yesterday, very much impressing in car number 29. The 16-year-old Dutchman was right up there. He was on the podium for being the leading rookie, and he was 5th in the overall race. Jarno Opmeer, he got himself into a few scrapes yesterday, but he's gone 6th on the grid, has the Dutch driver. Actually ran into the back of Yi down at turn 10, the Chinese driver. And watch out for Max Futrell as well. He was very much out of luck yesterday. He pulled a sensational move early on in the race, right around the outside of Kampse Corner under Forney. And then with damage, unfortunately, having been run into, was forced to pull into the pit lane. So Futrell, who with Dictum, his British counterpart, they've been head-to-head in the McLaren Autosport Young Driver Test recently in 3 different cars. And they're very much ones to watch out for British honours. And here is Yi. I mentioned him before, 9th on the grid, the Chinese driver, but was run into yesterday and picked up some damage. Wasn't really his fault. It was just that usual concertina effect down into the stadium section for the first time. So for race 2's grid here, this was a qualifying session that ran over half an hour last night. It was the last session on the agenda actually here in Barcelona, and it's Schwartzman on pole again from Finestra, who as long as he finishes ahead of Palmer will win the title. So Finestra is looking very comfortable indeed. Then it's Deforny and Aubry. Verschoor is 5th on row 6 with Jarno Opmeer there, very Italian first name, but certainly a Dutch driver. Futrell is 7th, hoping for luck this time. Palmer all the way down in 8th place. That is not going to make things easy for the championship. Even if Finestra has hit trouble, that's not going to help, being 8th on the grid. Yi Vajaten from the Netherlands, Sargeant, the American, with Corneve alongside. Then it's Dictum, hoping for more luck. Off track twice yesterday, Zane Goddard of Australia. Then it's Peroni, Lloveras, the only Spanish rider in the field. Malaysia, Thomas Randall was actually disqualified for running an underweight car in race 1. Frank Byrd is the son of Paul Byrd, former rally driver and now team owner of the title-winning BSB team of Shaky Burn. So watch out for Frank Byrd. There's Raul Guzman, the Mexican, 24th on the grid. And just look how long this page goes on. There are 32 of them on the grid in all. It's an impressive lineup. Razak from Malaysia, he ran into a few troubles yesterday. Not really his fault, it must be said, with Fortec Motorsports. They're running a really strong lineup here, though. Razak then 30th on the grid, but there are 32 of them in all. There they are, Axel Matus and Julia Pancras, the only female driver in the field. 32nd on the grid. And so the warm-up lap underway here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. It really was an absolutely dominant performance yesterday from the winner, Schwartzman, the ever-smiling driver of car number 10, the 18-year-old Russian. And he had reasons to be smiling yesterday. It was record pace in qualifying, it was the race win by over 3 seconds, and fastest lap of the race as well. There's 43 coming through the shots. That's Logan Sargeant, one of the 2 wild cards in the field here this weekend. 16-year-old American. Great to see such a mix of nationalities here in the Formula Renault Eurocup in the finale of 2017. All sorts of different countries being represented, 14 nationalities in all. 20 of the drivers on the grid are rookies this year, either competing for the first time at this event or having done the whole season. They've got a title to be sewn up as well. 2 wild cards as well. We saw Logan Sargeant. Charles Milese is the other wild card in car 40, the 16-year-old driver from France, and he actually is the youngest driver in the field as well. Few question marks. First of all, Palmer. What's he going to be able to do from 8th on the grid? That was a bit of a nightmare qualifying for Will Palmer yesterday. It has been a superb season, though, for Will so far, but from 8th on the grid, his title chance is looking quite narrow now as Finestra comes into this one with a 46.5 point championship lead. 46.5. The half point, if you're wondering, was picked up in the first race at Spa when we had a red flag situation. We did not hit 75% race distance, and so full championship points were not handed out on that particular day last time out. For the rookies, the top 3 rookies contending for their title, it's a race within a race, running to exactly the same technical regulations, but with their own little battle. They just score championship points as everybody else does, and the leading rookie picks up that award for the season. They are 6th, 7th and 8th overall. Futrell, Dictum, the 2 Brits, and Yi, the Chinese driver. 18 points between Futrell and Dictum, 41.5 back to Yi. So he really does need other things to happen. It's between the 2 Brits, realistically speaking. That was Alex Peroni there coming through the shot. Italian surname, but Australian driver. And here we go again then, Robert Schwartzman. What an impressive driver he is. Not just in the academy for the Russian drivers, S&P Racing, but now put into the Ferrari driver academy as well. He's very proud of that fact. Golden crash helmet, number 14 here is Xavi Lloveras. Xavi, the Catalan from Girona province, not too far from here. You can see the Catalan flag flying proudly on the nose cone of the car, and he is the only Spaniard in the field. Everybody in position. Then we're on the starting grid. Don't forget, it's 25 minutes and then 1 lap. Here's Julia Pancras, the Polish driver. She'll position the car at the back of the grid, 32nd place. Teams watching on then. Schwartzman from pole. Finestra second on the grid. Sasha Finestra almost certain to win the title here this afternoon. And watch out for Palmer from 8th. Red lights on. Red lights out. Second race of the weekend underway here in Barcelona for the Formula Renault Eurocup. Everybody away well. That's good news. Will it be cleaned down into this tricky turn 1 section for the first time? It's Finestra who dives to our right, his left. Is he going to go all the way around the outside of Schwartzman? No, he's not, but it's a good start for Finestra. Are we through cleanly? No, we're not. De Forney's being turned round. There was contact with Aubry and more contact and more contact. It's chaos at the start of this second race of the weekend. Never mind the safety car. This will have to be a red flag situation. We had a similar situation in this category a decade ago, and it's happened again. Safety car has been deployed. Well, that's amazing if they can actually put the safety car out. Looks as though half the field's being wiped out there down at turns 1 and 2, but we do have the safety car deployed. Everybody needs to calm it down now, and they haven't done so, because turned round is Gabrielle Aubry. He's out of the race as well at turn 5. Total chaos and bedlam, and we're not even halfway round the lap. Look at the scene down here at turn 2. What a mess. Number 93, Zane Goddard, the Australian. Red flag now flies. Well, I have to say I was very surprised when I saw a safety car deployed. There's no way they're going to clear the track in time. This is De Forney, who was first to be turned round there, and it was an absolute chain reaction. There was nowhere for anybody to go. Cars and drivers just littering the gravel trap and the track itself, and this is going to take an enormous amount of time to clear this mess up. Looks as though everybody is away and walking. How many actually got through it, I don't know yet. They're all on the other side of the circuit at the moment, but there must be at least 10 cars stranded down there at turn 2. And then that rather silly incident as Aubry was turned around at turn 5. Now watch the blue car on the left. There's the initial contact. That's Deforney turned around, and look at this, one car flying through the air. That could have been much, much worse. It's always a horrible situation when you see a single-seater flying through the air like that. That's why these halos are being introduced over the next few years. There's the initial touch. Look how long the carnage goes on for. That's Leeds in the yellow car coming through, the Australian. Watch again. Deforney round first. He's hit once, twice, thrice, and then it continues. And one of the Red Bull drivers coming through, minus a front wing as well. That's Neubauer closest to us. He was the driver, I believe, who was flying through the air. Number 21 now, the white car. That's Yu Yang, one of the 2 Chinese drivers in the field. And one car, as you can see on the right-hand side, managed to avoid the initial carnage, but ends up going off into the gravel and almost the tyre barrier on the right-hand side. Now, you notice the clock continuing to tick down at the top of the screen, but brilliant news here. Brilliant news coming through from Race Direction on the timing screen in the commentary box. All drivers are okay, and that's the important thing. Yes, we have a real scene down here at turns 1 and 2, but everybody is okay. There's Neubauer. Well, that could have been, and there's the confirmation on our screen now then. All drivers are okay, fed straight through from Race Direction. Tamas Zettner, incidentally, is the race director. He will have overseen the situation. They tried to bring the safety car out first, and then there was that further incident down at turn 5. But basically what would have been happening there is that the marshals would have been in constant radio contact with Zettner and his team back in Race Direction. And as you can see, it was no major decision, was it, they had to take than to bring the red flag out. You've got so much debris as well as cars all over the track. Well, goodness me, would you believe it? The leaders got through cleanly. Schwartzman and Finestra were through cleanly. Richard Verschoor was up into 3rd position in the Red Bull-sponsored car. Futrell went 5th. Opner was 5th as they came... Sorry, Futrell 4th. Opner was 5th as they came round. Now, here's the scene with Aubry's car, and this is at turn 5. That was a completely separate incident, and I imagine what would have happened there is that Aubry had backed out of it and lifted off, knowing the safety car at that point had been deployed. Somebody else was caught out behind him and turned him round into the gravel at turn 5. Whether he'll be able to restart or not, I'm not quite sure, but it's not looking very good, is it, at the moment? This is Matus, the Mexican driver. Very easy to recognise this car with its pink livery, the only pink liveried car, Force India-like, but this is even more pink, isn't it, in this particular field? The only one on the grid, though, with that particular colour scheme. It's not necessarily the case that certain teams are running the same liveries for all of the cars, as Thomas Neubauer, the Frenchman, stomps away. There wasn't much you could have done there. Very much an innocent victim. Leeds has stopped as well. That's Lewis Leeds, the yellow car, the Joseph Kaufman racing car, 17-year-old Australian on the right-hand side. Poor old Neubauer. It was good of him, though, to check that everybody else was okay down there. Check the cars. That's number 19. That's Frank Byrd's car just behind him as well. Now, Frank Byrd is the youngest son of Paul Byrd, who, as I said earlier on in the proceedings, is a bit of a rally driver when he's got time. But Paul Byrd, most famous, of course, for his success as a team owner in motorcycle racing, and his rider Shaky Byrne wrapped up the British title at Brands Hatch just a few weeks ago, and it was his 6th title. Here we go again then. Let's have a look at the start of this race. This was all fine so far. It was good news off the line. Nobody bogged down, nobody stalled, everybody away well. Schwartzman on the left, on the right is Finestra, who is the champion-elect. Now, watch the blue car of Deforney. He's gone right round the outside there. There's the contact. He's turned round. And now watch the rest of the field trying to avoid it. Some of them being caught out, some of them intentionally having to drive off the track, and others didn't know that was happening, because when it started, if you now focus on the back of the grid, they're fighting with each other. They have no idea what's going on just a few hundred metres further up the road. All of a sudden it's panic stations flying through the air, and they all end up rather embarrassingly in the gravel trap, but there wasn't much anybody could have done there. Deforney, very fortunate. Wasn't quite T-boned in the cockpit. It was the right rear quarter that was hit of the blue car of Deforney. But this could really shake some things up here in the championship standings. There's only 2 races left, including this one. And the lower reaches of the top 10 in particular might well change now as we move into the final 2 races of the season, whenever, of course, this one actually gets underway. The clock continues to tick down at the top of the screen. There's Maxwell. He was very much involved, wasn't he? Tom Maxwell, the 19-year-old Australian in the chaos. And I think that was a mark across the back of his crash helmet as well. I don't know whether somebody's wheel might have clipped him. If that was the case, and we don't know for sure, but if it was, he's a very, very lucky boy indeed. And the crowd now having to wait. Look at all the marks on the track as well, where various vehicles have been caught up and got away. Drivers in the runoff area as well. And now they're just surveying the situation. Can we get back into the race? There's the car of Aubry. This is on the other side of the barriers at turn 5, which as the crow flies is just a few metres away actually from turn 2 with the access roads, but there's almost more drivers down here at turn 2 than there are back in the pit lane. Look at them all. Absolute chaos. At least there's a few smiles. We do know that everybody is okay. If you are just switching on, this was the second race of the weekend for the Formula Renault Eurocup. This is the only female driver in the field, the Polish representative, Julia Pancras. She's 18 years old. And unfortunately for Julia, she was right at the back of the grid and obviously was caught up. Obviously nowhere to go when she got down to turns 1 and 2. But there was a very, very amazing series of incidents going on there, wasn't there? And it just backlogged into the field. I remember the American Grand Prix back in 2006, a similar thing happened. We had an incident in a very, very similar situation actually at Indianapolis. A right then a left. There was an initial accident and it caught out those behind as well, who had nowhere to go and initially didn't even know what was happening. Now this might be significant here in the sense that with this red flag flying and cars still being cleared, and this is going to go on for some time, it's now 11:15 local time. Original start time when we did get away on time was 11:20, 10:40. It is now 10:47 almost. It's amazing how much can happen in 5 minutes, isn't it? The driver's just looking up to the crowd. They're actually walking past what's known as the Socios zone. That's for members of the Circuit de Catalunya. It's a bit like a season ticket in a football stadium. You can pay a lower fee. You can come along to the track and get in to all of the events across the area. And they have a special viewing zone down here on the inside of turn 1 at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. What drama they've seen on the Formula Renault Eurocup return. This is the first time we've had a race here in this championship since 2013. And well, they are back in style, aren't they? It was a great race yesterday. All sorts of overtaking. We had drivers banging into one another. We had a complete 360-degree spin as well at one point for number 34 yesterday. Gislan Cordeel, the 18-year-old Belgian rider. And now, as the Circuit de Catalunya scooters are put to full use, everybody being transported back to the pit lane. Work is allowed on the cars, no refueling is allowed, and the latest information now being fed through to our timing screen. Information to come 7 minutes before the resumption of the race. That's all we have at the moment. Information to come 7 minutes before the resumption of the race. But what an absolute mess down here at turns 1 and 2. Well, turn 2 to be fair, not really turn 1. One car now on the left-hand side on the grass. Didn't end up there after the incident. It's been wheeled across there out of the way. But even some of those who got back to the pits are now allowed to repair their cars, because there are others involved in this who've had to limp back round with at least broken front wings, possibly punctures as well. I wouldn't be at all surprised with the amount of contact that was going on there in the field. Now we join the service road, looking down the start-finish straight towards turn 1. You can see turn 1 in the background and drivers being brought back. There's a car behind them as well. May well be ferrying some of the other drivers back towards the pit lane. Here is the pit lane. You can see the rest of the cars on your right-hand side, including the green liveried number 11 machine of Sasha Finestra, who thankfully was not involved in the collision. Now that may well be a right front puncture here on the Yu Yang car, the Chinese driver, number 21. Certainly front wing, I don't think it is a puncture actually, is it? But the front wing is completely ripped off. And this is one of the lesser damaged cars, it must be said. Obviously, there's going to be a few not restarting this one. Good opportunity in the nicest possible way for those further towards the back of the field to actually have a go now at scoring some championship points. You need to be in the top 10 to score championship points. Every time we watch these replays, we're learning a little bit more about how this incident unfolded here on the run down to turn 1. So, Finestra pulls out to our right, Schwartzman on the left, but what's number 4, Aubry? 2 incidents then for him on the first lap. Aubry with the red and black car up the inside, clips Stefani, there's the initial touch. And now watch the middle of the field and the rest of the field, bang, 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 one after the other Look at that. 2 were already off and then caught up by another flying car through the air. Blue and red car contact. Tiffany in the middle of the pack. This is a scary situation. Rolls back slightly, and that's what caught out the rest of them. And watch as Leeds' car is completely driven over. No wonder Lewis Leeds stopped. He wasn't just avoiding the chaos, he was completely driven over in the background. I think the flying car was 93, Zane Goddard. If that was the case, then it was 2 Australians contacting with each other. Look at the speed he went into the gravel trap there and into the other cars. And now this is the turn 5 incident of Aubry. Remember, he is one of the drivers who triggered the initial chaos. He's managed to survive and then caught out in another collision down at turn 5 as the safety car at that point had been deployed. Now the clock has reset itself at the top of the screen to the time we were on when the red flag was originally flown. It's a 25-minute duration under normal circumstances. Safety car was originally deployed, and so the clock continued to tick down. They've now reset that back at race direction to the time we were on when the safety car was initially deployed. That's what's happened there. So we'll have 23 minutes and 54 seconds remaining when we get back underway. And if you are joining us this year for the first time, what happens in terms of the +1 lap is that once the clock ticks down to 0 and the leader crosses the line, when the clock is on 0 minutes and 0 seconds, the final lap begins. Oh, well, poor old Julia, there wasn't much she could do there. Pancras, number 25, the 18-year-old Polish driver. 14 nationalities in the field, though, and I've got time to go through them all now with this red flag. China, Australia, France, Great Britain, Belgium, Russia, Mexico, Portugal, Poland, as we're watching here, Spain, Malaysia, Indonesia, the Netherlands, and the United States, all with representatives on the grid. But Australia and France actually are leading the way, 5 drivers each. Spain, just the 1 representative. We saw him on the grid earlier on, lining up in position. Xavi Lloveras, the 17-year-old from nearby Girona province. Now, there's a heck of a lot of damage there to the number 2 car. That's Lewis Leeds' Joseph Kaufman racing car, the 17-year-old Australian, one of the 20 rookies in the field. And look at this, what a mess. That's the car that was flying through the air, Zane Goddard, another Australian. And it was Leeds, actually, who was clipped by Goddard, who went flying into the air. Number 5 closest to us there is Thomas Maxwell. We saw Thomas on his feet and walking away. All of the drivers are okay. I should repeat, if you are just tuning in, everybody's okay. Let's just listen in if we can hear what's being discussed. Oh, that was a French conversation. Unfortunately, my French doesn't really allow me to provide you with what was being discussed there. If I hear any Spanish or even Catalan, I'll try and have a go. But with French, I would be pushing my luck. They haven't had too far to come, luckily, the French drivers. It's, well, depending exactly where you are in France, it's about a couple of hours up to the border, like Jonquière, as it's known, and then you cross into Perpignan, and then the south coast, the beautiful south coast of France, not too far from here. And, of course, we did visit the south coast of France earlier on in the season, twice, actually. Paul Ricard. We had a race as well alongside the prestigious Monaco Grand Prix. The season started back at Monza, and that was back in the weekend of the 22nd and 23rd of April. Then we went on to Silverstone. We were alongside the Blanc Pond GT Endurance Series that weekend. Bit of GoPro filming going on here, down on the infield section. Then we went to Pau in France, the Pau Grand Prix. What an event that is. We had an event there. Monte Carlo Grand Prix not too long after that. Then we were alongside the TCR International Series and the GT Open for the first time this year. That was the Hungaroring in July, the first weekend of July. Nürburgring came soon after that, alongside the FIA World Endurance Championship. Last 3 rounds before this one, rounds 7, 8 and 9 of 10, alongside the European Le Mans Series. And that was the Red Bull Ring in Austria, Paul Ricard in France, Spa in Belgium, where we had 3 races for the first time this year, and another 3 here this weekend in Barcelona. Race 1 yesterday on Saturday, races 2 and 3. Well, race 2 should be coming up in the next half hour or so, depending on how long it takes to get the track cleaned up. And it's not just, as I said before, they need to get the track cleaned up, but it's also cars that need to be cleaned up and repaired. One of the SMP racing cars here, Fortec Motorsport, back in. I'm just listening in.
Did you work?
No, we weren't covered.
We drove. 18.
He drove.
18. No, 16.
Yeah. 18, 16, 93, 40.
Deforney's car being craned away. There was some confusion there down in the pit lane. The officials were asking whether that car had been driven back in or was brought back in. And the team certainly saying, no, we drove back round. We drove back round. That's why we positioned ourselves ready for a restart. As you can now see, good news there. Race will be resumed at 2 minutes past 11 approximately. So that is exactly 7 minutes from now. It's now 5 to 11 local time. I suppose the good news here is that it's continuing to get warmer now. The jumpers and jackets are off, T-shirts on, picnics coming out. And an even greater sense of urgency now down here at turn 2. The marshals know that they don't have too long left. The race itself is supposed to be restarting at 2 minutes past 11. Back down here in the pit lane. This car's obviously been clipped in one of the incidents earlier on. Fortec Motorsports are running 4 cars in the field. Alex Peroni, Alexei Kornev, the Russian, Frank Byrd, we've talked about him a lot already today, and Najai Razak, the Malaysian, who at 21 actually is the oldest driver in the field. The old age of 21, oldest driver in the field. Here's Max Deforney's car, and now this is a real shame because Deforney's been up there all weekend long, all season long as well, for that matter. The impressive driver of the blue car, being craned away. And here's the number 5 of Tom Maxwell, 19-year-old Australian. I said before we have 5 Australians in the field. Well, at least 3 of them, by my reckoning, were involved in the incident there. The timing screen in the commentary box does not even go down far enough to tell you how many were involved in the incident. But Aubry, Deforney, as we know, Goddard, Charles Milese was involved, as well as Frank Byrd. Milese, that's a shame because he was high up on the grid as well. He did a decent qualifying yesterday. There's the number 5 car of Maxwell. The marshals having to take them away. Of course, there's only a certain number of cranes available in each section of the track. But what can happen is you see Leeds' car and Deforney's car behind the barrier safely out of harm's way. What can happen with a red flag situation is that those vehicles are deployed from other parts of the track and they're able to come down to the accident scene. When you have a situation such as this, with multiple cars involved in one incident, which can happen, of course, at times. It hasn't happened too much this season. We have had a few incidents, but we haven't had a multiple crash quite like that. Kornev, the Russian there, sat in the pits. Red flags continuing to fly around the venue. And the car's just being positioned. What an expensive scrapyard this is on the outside of the approach to turn 3. We're looking down from the grandstand. We have turn 2 off to our left, turn 3 off to the right. Slowly, just gingerly lowering the cars down. And obviously those cars are not going to be restarting this race, but there'll be a great sense of panic now back in the paddock because those teams are hoping desperately to get those cars back as quickly as possible because they have another race coming up later on this afternoon at 4 o'clock local time. Guzman, no trouble for the Mexican. Here he is at one of the R-Race GP cars. Number 34 right behind him is Gislan Cordil, 18-year-old Belgian, with Arden. Arden, of course, very well-known team in car racing, set up back in 1997. Christian Horner and his dad, Gary Horner, set that up. Originally raced in F3000, which then became GP2, which now has become, of course, Formula 2. And Arden continuing to be run by Gary Horner. Christian obviously focusing full-time on the Red Bull F1 team. So race will be resumed at 2 minutes past 11. LT is local time. That has now been confirmed. It was a little bit speculative before, depending on exactly how long it was going to take to get the track cleaned up. But that is good news now. Confirmation of the restart then at 2 minutes past 11. We're coming up to 11 o'clock now. We're 1 minute away from 11 o'clock. This is Neil Verhagen, 16-year-old American driver. There are 2 Americans in the field. Verhagen, one of them, Logan Sargeant, the Wildcard driver. Car 43 is the other. Looking into those young but experienced eyes. 16 years old, Neil Verhagen. I say young but experienced, but of course all of these drivers, although they're still in the early years of their careers, they're all starting so young these days that they've already got a few years underneath them in some cases, having come up through usually national level championships such as Formula 4 these days. There's obviously a good Formula 4 championship in Britain, in France as well, and in other countries around the world. This is Kornev now with the Fortec technicians. The Fortec cars are actually one of the few teams in the field running with the same liveries, but they do have different coloured wing mirrors. You can see it's bright luminous wing mirrors in this case for Corneve. The steering wheel there has to be removed to get yourself out of the car. It does have various controls on it, and it's all, of course, learning for the drivers as they move up the order towards F1. Ultimately, they hope they can adjust some of the settings in the car there. They also have a special protective rim around the outside of the pit lane speed limiter button. We have had situations in the past when drivers have accidentally activated the pit lane speed limiter while in a racing situation. I remember Heikki Kovalainen actually doing that in Melbourne in a McLaren back in 2008 and lost a position coming into the final lap as a result. He and Fernando Alonso were battling over 4th place at the time. So that's why they've got that little plastic rim around the outside of that button to avoid anybody accidentally hitting the speed limiter in racing situations. It is now 11 o'clock, 30 seconds past 11 o'clock to be precise. Just over 1 minute to go then, and the pit lane will reopen and we will regroup. Now, the usual situation when you get a restart so early is to go back to the original grid positions, but we're going to have all sorts of gaps now, aren't we? With drivers from the front, middle and rear of the grid having all been wiped out. So we'll see whether they close the grid up or they restart with gaps, but either way it's going to be a much smaller grid this time as Alex Peroni waits. There's Super Mario himself, all set. I wonder whether he'll be racing around the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya in future years. He probably hopes so. Weather conditions are still good. Clear blue sky, as you can see for yourself. I'm looking out of the commentary box window. Hardly a cloud in sight, with the exception of a few off to my right, which is over the stadium section towards the chicane at the end of the lap. Just a few scattered clouds there, but very sparse clouds indeed. Nothing that's going to threaten. We certainly don't have a chance of rain or anything like that. Air temperature was 14 degrees Celsius when the proceedings originally got underway. That will have increased now. Safety car then will be deployed. We may well get a safety car restart here as opposed to the standing start. So the safety car will take them back out. The clock will continue to tick down. We are coming up now to 2 minutes past 11 local time. Great work, you have to say, by all of the marshals down at Turn 1. Directed all the time by race director Tamas Zetner. That incident, by the way, is under investigation. The driver advisor and steward Frank Lagorce, who's a former Grand Prix driver, raced in a couple of Grand Prix for Ligier back in 1994. He was a French F3 champion, Renault Spider Trophy champion as well back in the 90s. He will be looking over that incident to decide who, if anyone, was at fault, or was it just the good old racing incident. Race officially back on then. The race is back on. The clock continues to tick down at the top of the screen under safety car conditions. Look at the scene here. This is where the incident took place. You can see skid marks and dirt on the track. The marshals have done an excellent job though to clear the track up. A few little specks of gravel in the vicinity, but nothing major. They've done a really, really good job. Here is car number 1. That's Yi Fei, the Chinese driver, the 17-year-old. One of 2 Chinese drivers in the field. Let's just count the cars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Back to the white car there in the background. 11, 12, 13, just 14, 15 cars. 16 now coming into our shots, and 1 more in the background. So by my reckoning, actually, looking down the timing screen, which is probably easier than counting all the cars one by one, we have 20 cars all set to restart this race, down to Thomas Randall in that 20th position, although Randall is stuck in the pits at the moment. Safety car in this lap, and we will resume the race, but officially start it properly, realistically, for the first time. Quick word on Randall, by the way, in car 16, the AVF by Adrian Valles car. Adrian Valles, of course, a former driver himself, now a team owner and driver coach. But Randall was disqualified from yesterday's race for running the car under the minimum weight. Very, very unfortunate. Nothing he could have done about it, certainly. These things do happen at times, and Randall was disqualified. He is stuck in the pit, so I think we are going to get just 19 cars restarting from the original 32. That's 13 cars then, one way or another, completely wiped out of the proceedings here. Will Palmer, who I haven't spoken about so far, for good reasons, was all right. He managed to escape the chaos, and he'll be 7th. The order then, as they get going in a few seconds' time, will be Schwartzman, who was on pole anyway, weaving from left to right, warming up the tyres. Finestra is second. Vershaw, one of the rookies, and then it's rookies all the way down to 6th. Max Futrell is 4th. Otmir is 5th. Number 23 in 6th position is Alexandra Vatayan. Then we've got Will Palmer 7th. Yi for China is 8th. Dan Dictum escaped the chaos, and Logan Sargeant, the American wildcard, completing the top 10. Here we go again then. 25 minutes after the initial start, we are back underway here in Barcelona. Safety car pulls in, and it's Schwartzman with the advantage, looking to try and break the slipstream of Finestras. Down into turn one, he weaves right, he weaves left. Finestras, who's going for the championship, they almost touch before the braking zone. That was incredible. Finestras and Schwartzman almost touched there. Down into turn one, that really would have opened up the championship for Will Palmer if Finestras had gone off. Car still being recovered in the background, but we're underway cleanly. 17 has a real go. That's Alex Peroni attacking, and look at Finestras. He wants to win the race by winning the championship. Somebody's gone off in the background coming out of turn 3, but the rest of them are way well at the front. It's Schwartzman towards us. Finestras is still having a go right up with them. Richard Verschoor in the Red Bull car is in 5th place, and where is Will Palmer? Will Palmer is car number 8. He is still, I believe, in that 7th position. Somebody being shuffled out a little bit wide there, coming out of the troublesome turn 5 for the first time. You can pass if you're very brave. In the case of Alex Peroni there, up into 7. That's going to be tight. We had a full 360 spin from one of the drivers yesterday in this part of the track. But coming out of 8 and up the hill to 9, we had a full 360 from Cordeal further back in the pack. Now on the move, there's Palmer. Palmer has a go, and he's through. Palmer is through on Vatayan, Alexander Vatayan, the 17-year-old Russian, and Palmer knows he needs to cut through as quickly as possible. Palmer then now with 7th, moves up to 6th, down at La Caixa corner, but the leader is pulling away. Robert Schwartzman is pulling away, and it's all to no avail for Will Palmer at the moment. He might be up to 6th place, but there he is now chasing the number 30 car by the looks of it, of Jarno Upmeer, who was involved in all sorts of incidents yesterday, about 2 to be precise. 31 is Neil Verhagen, and he's coming through after those start line incidents. Just under 20 minutes to go, and we're finally then into the first flying lap of the race here this afternoon. The initial incident at turn 2, no further action to be taken by the stewards. So Frank Lagos has been watching replays back in race direction, and he's decided that nobody was really at fault. It was just one of those things. It was Aubry who initially made the contact down there into turn 2 with Deforney. Deforney was turned around, and the rest of them couldn't really do anything about it. And I think that was Finestras there locking up, championship leader locking up down into the Repsol hairpin at turn 4. Oh, and off goes the 31 of Neil Verhagen. He was up in the leading group. Neil Verhagen is out of the race. Another one gone. How many are actually going to make the checkered flag here this afternoon? There's going to be so much work going on down in the paddock. And that's Guzman off as well. I think this is turn 2. Guzman and Verhagen, I believe, may have contacted at turn 2. So that's 2 more out of the race. Well, you can. The cars you're seeing in shot now is pretty much the whole of the field remaining in the race, which is rather remarkable, bearing in mind 32 of them are on the original grid. Max Futrell there in the black and red car, number 7, having a real go, attacking Verschoor for 3rd, and right behind them here is Jarno Opmeer, car 30. He's not backwards in coming forward. MP Motorsport driver, 17-year-old. Now look at this. Oh, it's turn 1 where the contacts happened. What on earth was going on there? That was Yi for Yi, number 1. Red Bull car goes off. They're not going to make more contact, are they, as he rejoins? Look at this. This is going to be the incident. This is another incident, and off they go. Guzman into the tyre barrier. The Red Bull car spins round. That's Verhagen in the gravel. And again, we have the safety car on track here in Barcelona. Leaders slowing down. Hopefully we won't have anybody being caught out by the initial, as we did with the initial deployment of the safety car. But Maurizi Paluzzi is the safety car driver, and I think Paluzzi is getting in more laps than most of the drivers in the actual race so far here this morning. It's now coming up to 10 minutes past 11 local time. Gravel again all over the track after the latest of the incidents. You can see the marshals coming out to recover the Red Bull car stranded in the gravel trap. I suppose Finestras is relatively pleased about this. He'll get another chance now at Schwartzman, who does have tremendous race pace. Schwartzman, without doubt, the leader, does have the best race pace, but they come through the shot. Schwartzman with the lead. Finestras 2nd. No passing, obviously, under the safety car. Verschoor is 3rd. Max Futrell is 4th. Jarno Opmeer is 5th. Palmer will be 6th, and this is critical for Palmer, actually. He really needs to make the most of the restart and hope that something happens to Finestras to have any chance of converting what is a 46.5 point deficit into the possibility of being able to win the championship here later on this afternoon. Race 2 is due to start at 4 o'clock local time. Incidents involving cars 31 and 12 to be investigated after the race. That's the incident that brought out this safety car. 31 Neil Verhagen and 12 Raoul Guzman, who clipped each other into the left-hander of turn 2. But even before that, we'd seen another replay, hadn't we, of more shenanigans going on before the incident itself took place. They follow the safety car around. It's a Nissan safety car. This is the back straight out of Kampsa down to the La Caixa corner at turn 10, and the clock continues to tick down. These laps are not given back to them, by the way, so this is the race still going on, and we'll have, what, 10 minutes or so probably by the time the safety car pulls in. The lights are almost switched out on the safety car before it dives into the pit lane, but Finestra, as we're watching, and this could be a rather glorious day for the impressive 18-year-old Frenchman who started his career on a professional level back in 2015, as recent as that French Formula 4 in 2015. Then he progressed the next year to the Formula Renault Northern European Cup. 3 Formula Renault Cups nowadays: the Asian Series, the Northern European Cup, and this one, which is the big one, the Eurocup. And actually debuted, did Finestra, in this particular category that year with Tech 1 Racing. Finished 5th, couple of wins, 3 podium finishes, 2 poles as well along the way. And then this year he's been racing not just here in the Eurocup, but in the Northern European Cup again. Now, though, not with Tech 1 Racing, but Joseph Kaufmann Racing, and in the Formula 3 Euro Series as well. He's done 3 races there, has scored a point already with the Carlin team over in the F3 Euro Series this year. Safety car stays out. As I said before, the lights will be switched off on the safety car when we know it's coming in. We'll get the notification up on the timing screen here in the commentary box. 17 of them, which seems amazing under the circumstances, are actually still circulating down to Cordeal in that 17th place. Now here's the contact again. Rusman on the left, Verhagen on the right. Round he goes. Well, it's your call. Your guess is as good as mine as to who they might be giving a penalty to there. As Finastres continues to lap under the safety car. So let's just take stock, because the safety car is coming in this lap. Safety car in this lap. Will it be back out again, I wonder, before we get to the checkered flag? Sometime in the next 14 minutes, safety car comes towards us. But this is still going on. Look, they've not got long. They've only got 2 minutes or so to get that Red Bull car cleared. Raul Guzman's car, the Mexican's car, safely out of the way. Now, what is Sasha Finastras going to do? I wouldn't be surprised if he has a go, actually, at Schwartzman. I would not be surprised if he tries to win the race and win the championship at the same time. Finastras, incidentally, sister, married to Jose Maria Lopez, who is here this weekend. Former single-seater driver, former World Touring Car Champion of 2015 and 16. The Argentinian did it back-to-back. Well, he's the brother-in-law of the champion-elect here. Sasha Finastras in the green car, second, as they head up the hill. Now, this is a good shot. Look how steep the hill is here. This is the run up from turns 7 and 8 to Kampsa at turn 9. It's a lot steeper than it looks, even on this particular shot, but generally the television flattens out the track quite dramatically. Fastest car in the race so far, by the way, on the single flying lap they've had, was Schwartzman, car number 10. But obviously, that's good news for him. He is the leader, and he'll try and repeat that situation as they get going again. What's he going to do this time, though? And what on earth will Palmer do? Watch out for Palmer, car 8. Here he is. Here is Will Palmer, 20-year-old British driver, younger brother of Jolyon Palmer, Formula 1 earlier this year and last year as well, son of Jonathan Palmer, who was the F2 champion of 1983, the British F3 champion 2 years before that. Now, of course, business mastermind in motorsport vision, owner of several circuits, most recently Donington Park back in the UK. But let's just focus now on the circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. We're about to go racing again, and Finastra is looking rather racy, even behind the safety car. Palmer needs to close that gap. Palmer needs to close the gap to Otmir, because the safety car's coming in. Can't pass the safety car, obviously. Safety car now pulls off. The race will restart. How close will Finastras be to Schwartzman? No, the safety car stays out. Safety car on track. So actually, they've delayed it. My apologies. That's just flashed up on the timing screen. It was due to be coming in, and because of the clear up down at turn 2, it's taken longer than they anticipated. They've decided to leave the safety car out for another lap. Dramatic weave there for Finastras as he goes from right to left. They're trying to get some heat in these tyres. It was 13 degrees Celsius track temperature. Look at the nose cone on the front of the number 1 car of Yifei Yi, the Chinese driver. Look, it's clipped people earlier on as we saw the damage there on the front of the nose cone of the Joseph Kaufman racing car. Here's the 33 of Dan Dictum, 18-year-old British driver, highly regarded by Red Bull. Is he going to be following in the footsteps of the likes of Ricciardo and Vettel over the next few years, and a few others we could mention? But as I mentioned earlier on, he and Max Futrell have been going head-to-head pretty much in the McLaren Autosport Young Driver Test recently. 3 cars they drive there, the McLaren GT, a DTM car, and the Palmer Sports F2 car as well. So many initiatives available, and even if in this field, if you weren't with us yesterday, we were talking about the fact there are so many driver academies supporting the drivers in this field. We talked a lot about Schwartzman, the leader who's been recently inducted into the Ferrari Driver Academy, but he's also a member of S&P Racing for the Russian drivers. Matus and Guzman with Telmex for Mexico. Red Bull Junior Team, Verschoor, Dictum and Verhagen, and Renault Sport Academy with several other drivers in the field as well, including Max Futrell. Safety car in this lap. Hopefully it will be this time. The track is now being cleared over at turn 2, and we will be away again. Turn 2, so often the scene of incidents here because it flicks back from right to left. Sometimes you get drivers unsighted, particularly in a group of 3 or 4 cars. Remember, when they're sitting so low in the car, as the lights are now switched off on the Nissan safety car, but they're sitting so low in these single-seaters, you can barely see. The peripheral vision is very, very limited indeed. You can only see, obviously, the top of the tub in front of you. You can see the top of your tyres, and pretty much no more than that. You certainly can't see your front wing, and barely anything to the right or to the left. So it is very, very limited. It is easy to run into somebody, and that's not an excuse, but that is one of the reasons we do sometimes see some side-to-side contact. You don't quite know where the guy is to your right or to your left, but the safety car is definitely coming in this time after a delayed call. And look how much closer Finestra looks to Schwartzman this time, and what's for Palmer? Warming up the brakes, warming up the tyres, and he's gone for it. Schwartzman's gone for it. That's a fantastic restart from Robert Schwartzman. He's got this down to a T, hasn't he? Absolutely superb stuff from the 18-year-old. He leads cleanly, and Verschoor is going to have a go here at Sasha Finestra. Watch for Palmer as well in the white car in 6th place, 2.1 seconds behind already as the race gets restarted. Verschoor will have a go at Finestra. No, he doesn't. The Chinese driver weaving around in the background. It's all clean so far. Oh, there's almost contact there. That's Yi right up behind the Red Bull machine. Green flags waving around the lap, and we are back underway with 8.5 minutes to go. Schwartzman with the advantage. Is Verschoor going to have a go at Finestra? No, he's not. Futrell still sat there in 4th position. Palmer has not passed Opmeer. Palmer is still 6th, and look how the leader's already pulling away. Palmer thinks about Opmeer at turn 5, thinks better of it though. All too easy there to turn the man around in front of you, or even worse, wipe off your front wing, and that's not what it will be. The championship for Sasha Finestra coming into this one with a 46.5 point lead over Will Palmer. Here's the 43. That's Logan Sargeant, the American wildcard. Now, look at this. 30, weaves across. Palmer has a go. Palmer is attacking Opmeer. Oh, he almost touches him. That's exactly what I said he did not want to do. And right behind him now is the 23 of Alexandra Vertayen. Is he going to attack Palmer? Yes, he is. Vertayen couldn't care less about Palmer's championship, and rightly so. They're racing for themselves. Will Palmer, he's got to try, though. He's got nothing to lose now. Here he comes towards us. There is Will Palmer coming through the shot. Incidents involving cars 11 and 10 will be investigated after the race. That's Schwartzman and Finestra. That's what's happened there. So they're the 2 leaders. An incident involving the 2 leaders, Schwartzman and Finestra, is going to be investigated after the race. So what's that all about? I can only imagine if it wasn't to move off the restart, then perhaps something's happened behind the safety car earlier on in proceedings. If we hear anything from race direction while we're still on air about what that might have been, we will let you know. But we certainly won't be seeing any drive-through penalties after the race. Frank Nagors, the former Grand Prix driver, will be reviewing the incident as Finestra locks up and Futrell locks up as well down into the right-hander at Repsol. Did anybody run wide? No, they didn't. Look how the leader, though, is just edging away. Schwartzman edging away. Finestra has to be careful here. The thing is, though, even if he loses these positions, as long as Palmer's still behind him, he will comfortably wrap up the championship. Fastest lap of the race once again then for Robert Schwartzman as he pulls away on that 8th of the 9 laps we've had so far. This is lap 9 now. There'll be just under 6 minutes to go and then next cross the line. Glorious shot there out of Kamsa down the back straight. And we're seeing at the bottom of the screen the gap between Opmeer and Palmer as Futrell has a real go. No, my apologies. It's Opmeer having a go at Futrell. Here's Palmer. Alexandra Futrell right up behind them. Then it's Dan Dictum in the Red Bull car number 8. Yi somehow, despite the contact, is still in the points. Logan Sargeant is in the championship points as well. Here's a demonstration of just how difficult it is to follow through this Catalunya curve. These cars carrying tremendous speed. Incidentally, the gear ratios are fixed. They are 7-speed gearboxes, and they are fixed with the exception of 7th gear. And everybody has a long or shorter option they are able to run. That's why sometimes you can see some of them have got a better run down the start-finish straight. Surely that is the... That's the longer of the two options there for Alexander Vatayan. He comes through, takes the place. Good move there from Vatayan, and he's gone up ahead of Dictum. They're fighting very hard over 7th and 8th places, and Dictum runs wide. Dictum went off at turn 2. Somebody else is off as well in the background there. Dictum went off at turn 2 yesterday, then down here at turn 5 as well. Very, very highly rated British driver. He's your championship leader, Richard Verschoor right up behind him, and then Max Futrell as well. Leader now, Schwartzman, 1.7 seconds in the lead. Is Finestra going to put up a real fight here if he's got Verschoor alongside him? I suspect not. I forecast he'll be waving him through if he does find himself in a situation where he might be banging wheels with Verschoor. It's just not worth it. But the good news for Finestra here is that Verschoor is now coming under attack from Max Futrell in car number 7, the 18-year-old British. Hit the world scene in 2013. British F4 champion of 2016. Supported all the time by the BRDC, the British Racing Drivers Club. And here's Will Palmer. The championship slipping away from Will Palmer with just under 4 minutes to go now on the clock. Tried everything he could, but where this race went wrong was yesterday evening in qualifying when he was stranded 8th on the grid. Don't forget, we will have one more race later, and look at the weaving going on there in the background. Tremendous fight going on there. That's Yi having a real go at Logan Sargeant. Can he tuck back underneath him at turn 2? No, he can't. And now Yi's going to come under pressure from Enrique Chaves, the Portuguese driver. Alex Peroni's in here as well. What a scrap this is. This is 11th, 12th. 10th, 11th and 12th, with Sargeant now pulling away. So here comes Sargeant towards us. He's in 9th position, up the inside there. Oh, locking up as well as Peroni dives underneath. Chaves runs slightly wide at the Repsol hairpin. Chaves will duck back underneath him. Side by side, Chaves on the left. Up the inside comes the 17. Are they going to touch? Peroni's giving him space just about. Good driving by both of them. Excellent driving by both of them. They touch wheels around the left-hand kink of turn 6. Tremendous stuff. Peroni up the inside. Chaves gives him racing room. And that was a masterclass in how to negotiate turns 5, 6, 7 and 8 here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. And through goes Peroni. Grabs that 11th position as we come through towards the closing stages. Here's Palmer again. Palmer right up behind Jarno Opmeer. And here is the champion-elect, Sacha Finestra, who has a clear advantage now of 0.8 of a second over Richard Verschoor, the Dutch driver in car 29. Here's the leader in the meantime, through the chicane. Schwartzman, Sunday afternoon drive, pulling away from the rest of the field by now 2.5 seconds. Sliding there is the 43 of Logan Sargeant. He's got the hammer down, having pulled away from the rest of them. And in the background there, the pink car of Axel Matus was right up behind Xavi Lloveras, who is in 13th position. Matus is from Mexico, Lloveras the only Spaniard in the field, and Lloveras at the moment fighting a rearguard action as Futrell now has a real go at Verschoor into the closing stages of the race. Just under 2 minutes to go. Remember, final lap starts when the clock hits 0 and the leader crosses the line. Here is the leader, Schwartzman. Finestra sat in that comfortable second place, which is going to give him the championship as he locks up again down into Repsol. Verschoor and Futrell still locked together here. It's one long 8-wheeled car, and 5th and 6th are close as well. Opmeer and Palmer, but close isn't good enough. Palmer, there's not much he can do here. Palmer needs to fight through, but at the same time, he needs something to happen to Sacha Finestras with the green front and rear wings sat in that comfortable second position, which is going to give him the championship if it stays like this. Here's Robert Schwartzman, though, in car 10, R-Race GP. With 1 minute remaining, he'll have 2 laps to go when he next crosses the line. So the next lap will be the penultimate lap. Look at the lap time difference over Finestras, who's obviously thinking about the championship. But even so, Schwartzman's on a different planet this weekend. Palmer, oh, Palmer nearly loses it. Palmer locks up the rears, nearly right round into the left-hander of Lacaisha. And that could have been race over for Will Palmer. Well held. He had to have a go at Jarno Opmeer. He had to have a go, but the problem is number 23 is now right behind him, Alexander Vatayan. Look, he's right up behind Will Palmer, and then Dan Tictum's in there as well, and Tictum not really in luck yesterday. Here he is, here's Dan, through the right-hander at Catalunya Curve. Over the line we go to start the penultimate lap, and look at number 7 now. Max Futrell is right up behind Richard Verschoor in the fight for third, and this is that scrap going on as well. Tictum behind Vartum, this is going to be close. No changes for third and fourth. Is Tictum going to have a go? Tictum with the Red Bull car, the luminous wing mirrors, right around the outside, and he's through. Brilliant driving from Dan Tictum. Slightly wide, though. This is where he can get the flick back, but he's closed him off. That was lovely stuff, wasn't it, for Dan Tictum? Up in front of Alexander Vatayan, the Russian, and Tictum makes it stick. He's up into 7th place on the penultimate lap of the race. Can he do anything about the car in front of him? That's Will Palmer. Clock counts down to 0, which means the last lap will begin the next time the leader crosses the line, coming towards us. Tictum locking up, keeps it all together around turn 5. A warning's just been given out to car 43. That's Logan Sargeant, the American. Now Sargeant at the moment is down in 9th place, and he's on his own, so I can only imagine he's been exceeding track limits somewhere, and race direction have said calm it down a bit, or you are going to be given a drive-through penalty. Unless it's something that's happened earlier on in the race. But the fact that Sargeant is 9th on his own, 7/10 behind the driver in front of him, and almost 2 seconds ahead of the driver behind him, would suggest that he's probably pushing the track limits a little bit too much somewhere around the track. Now, look at this. This is the fight for the last podium spot. This is Max Futrell then. British driver, a bit of a wobble under braking for the man in front of him. Number 29, Richard Verschoor. Here's Palmer. A comfortable second in the championship it will be for Will Palmer, but the championship will be gone because we are now onto the final lap with leader Robert Schwartzman, and Sacha Finestras, the Frenchman, sat in 2nd place, is going to win the championship. But who's going to get this last 3rd place? Who's going to get this podium? Verschoor trying to break the toe. Can Futrell do anything down into the braking zone of turn 1? Can he? No. Thinks about it. Thinks better of it. There will be more chances. Opmeer's far enough behind to not be in a position to pass Futrell unless it goes dramatically wrong. By no means has Verschoor got this one. It's 2 rookies here. The leading rookie would be on the podium anyway, but will he be on the podium, Verschoor, for being in the top 3 of the race as well? Sacha Finestras, 18-year-old Frenchman, half a lap away now. Here he is, number 11, from winning the 2017 Formula Renault Eurocup in absolutely sublime fashion, with 1 race still to go later this afternoon. Another fastest lap for Schwartzman as he extends the lead to over 4.3 seconds now. But are we going to see a move, I wonder, from Futrell down into the left-hander of the stadium? Turn 10, Lacaisha, coming out of the middle sector, down into the last sector. He's got a great run through Kamsa this time. Is he close enough? Can Futrell dive up the inside? It's going to be a late lunge. Oh, he's thinking about it. No. Futrell held off. Good defensive stuff by Richard Verschoor, and he's going to pick up, if he can just stay where he is for the next few seconds, the last few corners, a second consecutive podium finish of the weekend. But let's salute, first of all, the race winner, Robert Schwartzman. Added motivation knowing he's now part of the Ferrari Young Driver Academy. Robert Schwartzman does it again. It was pole, win and fastest lap on Saturday. It's pole, win and fastest lap in race 2 of the weekend on Sunday. But now, crossing the line, second it is for Sacha Finestras, the 18-year-old from France, wins the Formula Renault Eurocup of 2017, and is he happy about it? You don't need me to tell you how delighted he is. Well done, Sacha Finestras. Will Palmer did all he could, but it really did go wrong in qualifying yesterday when he had to start 8th on the grid. Finestras, what a crazy race. Multiple collision at the start, 2 safety car deployments, defending very hard indeed from Verschoor, and holds on to 2nd in the championship. Well done, Robert Schwartzman. 2nd win from a 2nd pole and a 2nd fastest lap. It doesn't get any better than that, and he's looking to make it 3 out of 3 later on today. Sacha Finestras finishes 2nd, picks up the 18 points for 2nd place and the championship. Verschoor on the podium, leading rookie as well, and you have to feel for Will Palmer. 6th it was, a superb season for Will, but missing out on the championship here this afternoon in Barcelona. Now, look how many of them failed to finish the race. Look at that. That is unbelievable. Well over half of the second page of our graphics completely fleshed out without multiple collision at turn 2. And it goes on to a 3rd page on the first lap of this race. Watch it back if you can later on. What a situation that was. Total carnage earlier on. Championship standings, and with only 25 points left up for grabs in the final race of the season later on this afternoon, a 56.5 lead does not stop Finestras. Sacha Finestras, 18-year-old from France, is the 2017 Formula Renault Eurocup champion. Wow, what a race that was. A race split up into 2 halves. There's your winner. All attention, obviously, on the press is going to be on this man, Finestras, but what a drive as well for Schwartzman. Here comes the donuts. Well done, Sacha Finestras, 2017 champion. The crowd absolutely love that down at La Caixa. It's normally La Caixa corner where you get a lot of the action here, but it was turn 2, wasn't it, here this afternoon? Absolutely dominated things though, hasn't he, so far this season. It hasn't all been good news though for Finestras. Remember when he was put on his roll bar and flipped upside down at Paul Ricard earlier on in the year. In comes the number 10, Robert Schwartzman, the Russian. That was a long race in the end, considering it was a 25-minute duration plus 1 lap. Look at the final race time, with the red flag taken into account, over 50.5 minutes there. Well over double of what it should have been. Here come the applause. He's an impressive guy, isn't he? Robert Schwartzman, 18 years old from Russia. He's been racing for longer than most as well. Championship career going right back to 2012. Karting, raced Formula 4 in Italy. And then the Northern European Cup in Formula Renault as well. Here's Finestras. What a guy indeed. Sacha Finestras, congratulations as well, it must be said, to Joseph Kaufman Racing the last few years. In terms of the Teams Championship this year, it's RSGP who's already won it, but Joseph Kaufman Racing won it for the previous 2, and at least they've won the Drivers' Championship. What a list of drivers to have competed here before and to have won before as well. Kamui Kobayashi 2005, Philippe Albuquerque 2006, Brendan Hartley, Valtteri Bottas, Albert Costa, who's actually racing here this weekend in a different class, Kevin Korges from Estonia, Robin Freins, the Dutchman, Stoffel van Dorn 2012, Pierre Gasly 13, Nick de Vries, the Dutchman, in 14, Jack Aitken 15, and Lando Norris, who then went on to win the BRDC Autosport prestigious Young Driver of the Year award in 2016. Interview time in a moment down in Parc Fermé. The 3 cars of Schwartzman, Finestras, the champion, and Verschoor, 1, 2 and 3. The livery is very much reflecting, in most cases, the driver academy the competitor is with. Red Bull, of course, perhaps the most famed of all of them. Note the Ferrari logo as well on the top of the engine cover of the middle car. Robert Schwartzman, recently put into the Ferrari Driver Academy. So that's 2 driver academies he's part of, with the S&P Racing Driver Academy of Russia as well. They all want a bit of Schwartzman, don't they, at the moment? 5.3 seconds the leading advantage was, although it must be said that obviously Finestra
yet another dominant performance in quite a chaotic race. How was it?
Yeah, it was great. The race was pretty difficult, at least the beginning. I managed to make a good start, but I was still defending from Sasha. Then when I already made some little gap, I saw there was a safety car, so I had a little bit to calm down, and then I saw the red flag for no reason. Then the team explained that there was some incident. And then after the restart of the race, it was also like a pretty cool fight with him. We were fighting for 4 corners, and then I managed to keep my position and make some gap. And second safety car, I managed to make a better gap to him in the straight part, and then just win the race with a really good pace, and the speed was amazing. And massive thanks to the team, and massive thanks to Ferrari Drivers Academy and S&P Racing. So I'm really happy, and it's a massive job. Thanks to all.
And thanks to you, Robert Schwartzman. Didn't even know what had happened with all of the chaos further back, did he?
Sasha, you're the 2017 Formula Renault Eurocup winner. How does it feel?
You just feel amazing, to be fair. I think Rob was over the moon this weekend, faster than everybody's, but we've done the work. So, yeah, amazing. So happy. The team done an amazing job all the season, so I think we deserve this championship, and yeah, I can't ask more than that. I'm over the moon. Thank you.
Excellent driver, excellent English as well. Congratulations, Sasha Finestra, as the 2017 Formula Renault Eurocup champion. That's the incident that will have been under investigation when they almost touched down into turn 1. I forgot that had happened. They almost touched, didn't they? Palmer tried his best to fight through. That was a brilliant move at that point on the 23 of Alexandra Vatayan. This is the incident down into turns 1 and 2 when the Red Bull car was forced wide. The Chinese driver Yi causing it there, and then this happened. Bang, off goes Guzman, round goes Verhagen with a right rear puncture. That brought the safety car out for the second time. Safety car went back in, race started again. Drivers locking up, left, right and centre, running wide in this particular case at turn 5. With some brilliant scraps went on, didn't they? All down throughout the field. This is Alex Peroni at this point, fighting away hard with Enrique Chaves, the Portuguese driver, touching wheels through the left-hand kink of turn 6 into 7. Peroni through on Chaves. That was a wonderful, consummate bit of racing artistry there, and through he went. 33, always in the mix. Dan Dictum this weekend, and this was a lovely move as well, past Vatayan. But dominating proceedings again is Schwartzman. Pole, win, and fastest lap twice now this weekend. Can he make it 3 later on? But congratulations, Sasha Finestra is the 2017 Formula Renault Eurocup champion here in Barcelona. Goodness gracious me, that was absolutely scintillating stuff for good and bad reasons. Richard Verschoor up onto the podium. Here's your champion, second on the podium for second in the race, but he doesn't care about that. The tricolor will fly proudly. Argentinian flag placed as well. I did mention before, of course, that Finestras has a sister who is married to Jose Maria Lopez, who's Argentinian as well, the former double World Touring Car champion of 15 and 16, and Robert Schwartzman. He's a lovely, lovely guy and a brilliant driver. That's another great win then for Schwartzman, and just continues to pile on the wins for this year. And the anthem then of Russia. Many congratulations to Robert Schwartzman. Not a very Russian-sounding name, but certainly a Russian driver. That's his 6th win of the season now, so he equals Finestras for wins this season. Who is going to get the 7th? If it is one of those two, of course, and it's wrong to assume it will be, but the last race of the season coming up. Set your watches. We have gone back an hour overnight with daylight saving, but we do have 4 hours to go, just over that, and at 4 o'clock local time, race 3, the final race of the season will be underway as the top 3 receive the prizes here. But the biggest smile without doubt is Finestra's on your left, the 2017 Formula Renault Eurocup champion. There was a bit of an incident here yesterday on the podium when the backdrop actually fell on top of the winner. He was absolutely fine, it's very light, just cardboard, but it was amusing. Commiserations as well, it must be said, just one last time to Will Palmer. Well done, Will. It's been a great season. You did all you could today, but it wasn't to happen. It was always going to be tricky this weekend anyway. It was a 52.5 point lead for Finestra's coming into the weekend. There's your race winner. Well done, Schwartzman. The grid for later on is already decided. Finestra's newly crowned champion, starting on pole position. Schwartzman will be second and De Forny will be third, hopefully, if his car is repaired. I'm going to go away in a minute and just count the number of drivers who were involved in incidents throughout that race. Completely lost count. Chaos here earlier on in the proceedings. There's the rookie prize as well, so that's 2 trophies there for Richard Verschoor. Third in the race on the right, and the rookie prize with the R on the left for us. Congratulations, what a great day for him. That's 2 trophies. That's 4 trophies now. That's going to be an excess baggage charge, surely, on the way back to Amsterdam. Just ducking down slightly there because he's actually taller than the race winner. And now run away, everybody. Run away because it's champagne time. Well done, Schwartzman. Another perfect score. Well done, Verschoor. Another brilliant rookie performance and a great performance with the champagne as well, for that matter. But most importantly, Sacha Finestras, congratulations. What a drive. What a season for the 18-year-old Frenchman. On the podium yet again as We Are the Champions plays out. And here is your champion of 2017. I'm Greg Haynes, and we'll be back at 4 o'clock with the rest of the action, the final race of the season, later on from Barcelona.